Sake Clan, raise the roof. Sake Clan, raise the roof. Raise the roof, everyone. All right. In this video, we're going to be talking about why people are slowly leaving Christianity behind. And excuse me. And I'm going to talk about, the reasons and how it's been a burden to certain ethnicity groups to have this belief. It's fine that you believe in it, but I'm gonna tell you things that may get you to start questioning the belief a little bit. And of course, it gets in a little bit with politics as well too. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that, how it reflects and it gets into politics. So there are some interesting people out there who genuinely believe that our founding fathers, the people who were the first couple of presidents in America when it first all kicked off, there's people who think that those gentlemen, those men, were Christians. And I would like to tell you how crazy that is. That is insanely crazy. For one, as it says here, I think Paine was the one. But all I know is that there's one of the presidents that absolutely spoke highly against Christianity. One of the presidents, and was a radical against Christianity. He was radicalized, and we can go down the list right here. But as it says, but the founding fathers held diverse views from devout Christians like John Jay to deists like Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and Paine, all agreeing on religious freedom. Not that the country is a theocracy and that this is just like a Christian country. No, that's not a Christian country. Definitely would not like a country like that. That's just me personally. All right, we're gonna go down like the top five, like the five presidents that is gonna bring up on this search. The big the big G himself. We got George Washington. Here's what it says. And Angelson. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm gonna be honest. Emphasize providence and only attended church, but private faith key, which it means that he would do that privately, which is saying that although he would go to church and, try to, establish himself a reputation with the church and whatnot, but he wasn't claiming that he was a Christian. All right, we're gonna talk about five of these guys, five of these gentlemen. All right, Thomas Jefferson, he was a deist. That's kind of what that's kind of the spirituality that I'm dwelling in. Believed in creator. Yep. Definitely sounding a little bit on what I'm aligning with. Edited Bible to remove miracles. Now that one is where I kind of, it's kind of where I don't follow. I don't follow into that line. And it said allow church and government buildings. Yeah, he was just giving like people a place to basically attend church, but he was never a Christian. He was a deist. Oh, we got another one. Ben Franklin. It just straight up, it didn't even pull up a picture. That was interesting. It just said deist. Viewed virtue, but learned Christianity at times. He was learning Christianity. He wasn't a Christian. Yeah, so I don't understand why there's people that are out there that really believe that the founding fathers like are freaking previous, the first people who set foot in America believe that the leaders were Christians. I don't get why they are why there are people believing that. Um, but this last one, John Adams, uh, Unitarian, um, congratulationalist, believed in God less unorthodox than some. Yeah, so a Unitarian is not a Christian. That's what I will say. But Unitarians, if I'm remembering correctly, they don't really believe in Holy Trinity, but they do believe in a God, which is, if you're a Christian, you got to believe in the Holy Trinity. You gotta, and that's the thing about Christianity. All right, we're gonna, yeah, we're gonna skip past that and talk about my whole stick with Christianity. If we start talking about the first 500 years, when we're talking about Christianity, when it started and then it hit 500 years, the disciples, the people who were chosen by God, were moving at a whole different type of routine than how Christians are moving right now today. I'm telling you, it is insane when you look back into the Christian history when they first kicked it off. When they first kicked it off, I'm talking about in Rome, and how they were doing things and how things were running, how they were doing their routine and whatnot, and how their values and everything, it's so different than how things are now, 500 years from there. These people would not even recognize Christianity if they see it now, where we're talking about people who are loving the quote from the Bible that freaking applause to slavery. Not even to mention the countless violent things that has been done in the sake of Christ. Talking about torturing people on crosses, hanging people, and you know, and placing the cross next to them, burning the cross, doing all sorts of foolishness with the cross. But I'm actually gonna pull up some pictures. All right, guys, continuing on. Yeah, these people. It's crazy how there's people who did all that stuff that I just talked about, then have the nerve to try to make it out that these people were just, 100% white for one, and pose them as some type of um like group that's all about purity, and we don't allow um nonsense in our religion. It's like the whole religion has been nothing but nonsense, almost fully nonsense. But I'm pull up another picture of that, and I'm gonna talk about how interesting it is. All right, let's talk about how interesting this is. there are people who would go around and use racism and how they justify it and be like, well, look, if you look at all the pictures of the people who represents Christianity, then why weren't we put on, why aren't we so special and whatever? Because they see these pictures of, figures like Saint Mary and whatever, and it's pictures of like white woman and whatnot. But here's what's interesting about this: if you really look up the real photo of Saint Mary, you will see in some of these pictures that she's like a Middle Eastern woman, that she doesn't have the pale skin or fair skin. If you really look through, see, like, if you notice what some people would do, they would put bright blue on her robes and make it that she has blue eyes. Kind of reminds you of something, right? See, look, if you keep looking further enough, she has a Middle Eastern aesthetic. And there's people posting it on YouTube shorts and trying to spread the word out there on TikTok, but not usually people try to learn factual information these days. Like, look, it's a fake picture when it's all blue and they got her eyes as a blue shade of eye color. It's fraudulent. Now, even look at here on her left, in the black and white photo. Got some European in her, but you can tell from the hair, definitely has some Middle Eastern aesthetic. But like, my brother, this is yeah, it's insane. But let's talk about it. I was trying to get it off earlier in the video, but I think I had enough time to really put thought into it. So, black conservatives, the whole stick is just like ridiculous, right? Because the whole point of being a conservative is to try to keep things the same and to try to do certain things for the country, maybe over here and maybe over there. But the problem is with that, and you're a black conservative, I mean, it's fine. Like, be whatever you want to be. But understand that all the things that have been brought down in history, especially when we're talking about 1940s and 1950s, where people get it confused, right? They get it confused and try to shame black folks nowadays, especially with black fatigue and all this other nonsense going around. People try to shame folks, my folks, and confuse self-improvement with self-improvement and respectability politics. It ain't none of that, man. It ain't none of that. That's crazy that it gets that deep. It really is. Excuse me. Got off of work recently. But that's when someone gets the two confused and they dwelling into a dark path where they just shaming every, rare moment where a black person or a black child or a black or a black woman do something, call them out on it, bro. Because there's a difference between like trying to straighten up the community and you pushing and enforcing like respectability politics, which is a grift, by the way. Like, there's people who called out many minority folks who try to go into the intelligent grifter, you know what I'm saying? Where they believe that dressing in suit and ties and, being on your very best behavior and catering to other folks and all that other stuff is just magically gonna make the people not hate you. No, it doesn't work like that. It really don't. Time and time again, especially when, again, we're talking about 1940s, 1950s, where nothing but suits and dresses were around in that time. This was before pop culture. This was before swag was a thing. This was before, fit check and, oh, you dripped out, was a thing. And all people had and were able to afford were suits and ties and dresses. It's the same thing with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Those men died in suits. I want people to understand that. They died. When they died and got murdered, they died in suits. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Like, all that stuff don't magically go away. And I see it time and time again with these black conservatives. And don't get me started on Christian nationalists that also be bringing that up too as well. Because I'm going to be real, man. You ready to call that out. But the moment when someone who knows like the rules and stuff about being a Christian and they switch it on to you try to, they try to weasel their way through. I never seen any other person that but in beliefs and stuff like that will try to weasel their way more than a Christian nationalist. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna tell you a little secret. If the Christian nationalist is being disrespectful and trying to call you out and trying to make it out that you're a nuisance and you're weird, if they have an ex-wife, call that out. Call it out. And how you call it out, and call it out like this. And I'm gonna give you this tip, and I'm gonna drop you this dime, and I'm gonna end the video. Call it a sin and say that it's crazy that you're a Christian and you committed one of the main sins that has been practiced throughout, their version of Christianity, which is adultery. When you leave your wife, and this is also in Christianity, when you leave your wife and then you go on to be with a new one, you just created a sin. That's adultery. That's adultery. That's what they called it. And so don't listen to that, because don't listen to them, and don't even bother to try to explain yourself and whatever. At the end of the day, if they're in that situation, call them out on their lies. Because 9 times out of 10, they're just moving through life with full of lies. But yeah, take it clean, raise the roof. Take it clean, signing off. Glad to make this video for you guys again. All right, peace.